your valuable health and in-depth wisdom. Hi, Perceptive Readers. This is James Lynch, and welcome to this series of the Perceptive Readers podcast, which is a creative expression of PogBooks.com and yes, PogBooks.crypto. Today, the subject matter I want to cover has to pertain to health and also your wisdom. This subject is so important that really, I had to jot down a few notes, 4 outline points that I want to make. That's how important I feel it is because, the majority of the time, I would say 99% of the time, I just get on here and I start talking and then, I make a few jokes and then I know it's time to stop talking and end the podcast. But for this one, your valuable health and in-depth wisdom, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm relating this information for a reason. Have you ever had someone just say in a calm manner, I love you a little bit more than even the regular love for humanity. So that is still saying a lot. And then they would probably make a joke and say, now, I don't love you as much as my dog, but you're somewhere in between there. All right. And see, that's a good-hearted joke or what have you. All the same, the person really cares and mean in all sincerity what they're about to share with you. So I'm just going to share these 4 points with you. And a couple of the points actually came from what you would consider the sage or a sage. All right. Starting with number 1, there was once a race. And what was so special about this race? It was a private race, but it was between a teenager and a person who was actually hitting, or really in their middle age. Okay. And what was so interesting is the race went for more than, I believe, somewhere between the 30-40 yard mark. But what was so fascinating is you had this a well-trained, a young teenager who, jumping out of trees and everything else, racing with this older man, middle-aged man. And guess what? The middle-aged man actually stuck with the younger man all the way to the finish line. And really, most likely, could have even whipped them, as the term goes, all right, in that race, running race. Now, with that knowledge in mind, one of the things that the person said, because they were talking to the older person, this in a private conversation, and they were asking, hey, why don't you ever, start up and do your jogging and things of that nature again, or what have you. And what this person said, the middle-aged person, was that, well, at my age, things just don't heal as quickly as they, used to. So, he went on to express things, but that's the point I want to share from that first point that's in my outline. The second one has to do with sports. There was once a person who had a lot of different matches, wrestling, if you will, any other type of, football, things of that nature that, people play with, or whether they do it even on a team or what have you, like any type of sport that's very physical, and the main ones that come to mind are often like football and wrestling, during the high school years. So anyway, you will find that just even in practice, you'll see those persons button heads and doing all sorts of things, stretching their bodies in ways that, boy, you just don't know. You didn't even know that the human body was meant to go that way, but it went that way, and they could get up and smile. And guess what? The next day is almost like, hey, nothing even happened. Well, a lot of that, goes on during the adolescence, teenage years. The years of immortality, the years that you can take the blows and the blows just, go right past you like you didn't even take a blow. All right. Now keep that in mind, because what one man experienced is, someone had found out, he had a little bit of experience in some of these, very intense, sports, you see, and they kept trying him. This one person kept trying him and just wouldn't leave him alone. And this was a younger person. See, by this time, some years had gone by, like over 10 years. So the person, was way out of school, way out of all that type of, activity. And so this was 10 years later. And then the person was still, you see, in shape. That's the key point. The person was still in shape, still felt good and thriving, even, you see, in their 20s, even though they hadn't had that type of tough or rough contact, you see, since then. But keep this in mind. After being challenged so many times by this one person that was still, some years younger, but was past the teenage years, they got into a little tussle, you see, and the point was, it was to actually just, show the person that, hey, even though, you got the youngness or whatever going for you, you still got thrown over there in their bushes, you see. But see, here's the point. After this time, unlike what would have happened maybe 10 years earlier or so, the next day, the body, the headbutts and everything of that nature, it wasn't feeling like it was going to recuperate anytime soon at all. And it really did recuperate like within a couple of days. But the difference from the time of the teenage years to now, even in the 20s, because this person now was living, a non-violent life, no hard contact in that way. The hardest contact they had was probably a rake to the ground, things of that nature, and, just lifting your regular boxes. But as you know, when you're engaged in a tussle, an altercation in that way with persons, your body take blows on a level that, boy, if they were to measure even some of those throws and punches and things of that nature, they actually fall into the range, you see, that one blow can actually take a person out. I don't know if you knew that. One blow can actually maim a person for life as well, you see. And the thing about it is, like I said, you don't think about it in the younger age and things of that nature. Now, I'm not sharing this, which I want to make sure that, remember, this is just information for you, because we're talking about your valuable health and your in-depth wisdom. Okay. So the whole point was the person could still do what they used to do, even as a teenager. See, there was no shame in that. They had the strength and the stamina as well. But the point was, already you can tell the body was no longer conditioned to take that type of blow or trauma that actually teenagers were taking, because it was not something that they were engaged in every day. And it's not to say that that person who was already in their 20s could not get back to that point, but it would have taken some time. It certainly would have took more than a week, but it probably wouldn't have taken more than a year. Who knows? Because your 20s, you can get right back to that maybe within a year sometimes. Okay, so anyway, keep that in mind as well. Now I'm moving on to the next point here. Okay, think about this as well. There are famous sports stars now, people who are well known in different areas. Like if I was to mention golf, you could probably think of persons right off the top of your head who for years have been at the top of their game. And at one time, where something might have been sore or ached, they would say, hey, I'm going to, take a break from, this, invitation that I received for this or that. And yet I'll be ready though for the next one. And they normally were. But as they continue to get up in years now and their body has experienced a lot of different things, you can tell they still are very strong. If you see them in the gym, it's almost like, boy, they could pick up a cow if they want to or what have you. And yet they know in order to actually play on the level that they were doing, they have to do a lot of things as far as even listening to their body, just to prepare it for even a sport such as even like golf, you see. And yet golf, you see, where the repetitive motions and the overworking of it really is called like trauma that can happen on the muscles or whatever, that you're going to, cramps, Charlie horses, things of that nature. Remember, those things just pop up. It's almost like you can say, I'm listening to my body, but then your muscles still do things that you're like, I don't even know why my muscle did that. You see what I'm saying? And so the whole point is, all the same, they realized, they said, this is what I'm planning on doing, but I still know I have to pay attention to what my body may tell me or what to do or what, or what I'm experiencing. And as some people would say, there's no shame in my game, you see. And so I just want to share that with you too. And the very last point is dealing with health and wisdom again, specifically your in-depth wisdom. And this is from the sage, if you will. It's taken many years, you see, to gain the maturity and the wisdom that many of you have once you've hit middle age and higher. And what the sage would say is, don't let that maturity or wisdom be knocked out of you by anyone. Do you understand that? You see, the whole point is, you've heard persons say time and time again, you get a certain age, you don't have to prove anything to no one. And with maturity comes at times, you don't even have to prove certain things to yourself. You've already proven it, you see. And sometimes listening to outside voices, they can kind of make you feel like at times the physical aspect of things is even more important than the in-depth spiritual and wisdom knowledge of the world and of people, which it isn't. That is why the Bible still even says, before gray-headedness, you are to rise up. You're certainly not supposed to beat up someone in gray-headedness. Now, with all of that still being said, I am a big proponent persons being in shape and doing everything that they can to take care of their bodies. I just want persons to realize, and and there's one person that the difference between, because you can look at persons, and there's certain persons that, I even have, a respect for. I just won't mention their name, about how well, they stayed in that consistent basis of shape, competitiveness. You see, they've kept their bodies in that elevated state that could take blows and things of that nature from the time they were teenagers, even all the way up to their 50s. They are even more in shape than even the teenagers are. But see, remember, that's the key. They stay consistently with everything of that regimen, if you will, of what they put their body through every single, day. And I just want you to know that there is still a difference between all those activities of what those persons have been doing all their life. It's another thing to, like I said, be more of a Zen mode. One who is capable of even picking up a car, but that doesn't mean that the person should pick up the car, because what would be the after effects? Now, you can have another person, as I said before, been picking up cars all their life and they never stopped. See, and so they won't have the same results or the feedback from it otherwise. And so just continue to keep these things in mind, that no one, would discourage anybody from, saying, I want to be the best that I can be. Just remember the maturity that you have. And I'll share one more point with you. This is an extra point, and this is going right back to point number 2, where, remember, I told you a person was challenged, and a few people heard about, what had happened in just that little test of strength or whatever. I see some people may even say that was a sign of, come on now. But I'm using this as an example. But you see, here is the point. Since that time period, there's been a couple of times where persons who were very much, in the zone of what they were doing in a physical way, had at times kind of looked at this one individual and they just said to themselves, that person has a ferocity that I don't even know I want to mess with. And they told the person to their face. And what the person told, at least a couple of persons throughout his life, was that, no, it's, it's not that you couldn't take me out. I said, in time, you got the strength, you got the youngness and things of that nature. But here's the thing that you have to keep in mind with a person who does have, like I said, maturity and experience. They'll tell you, it's not that they can't take you out. The point is, because of the way that their body is not conditioned for all that trauma anymore, something could still happen to them even after they get the victory. So that's why they don't even go there, So these are some thoughts to keep in mind. Remember, your wisdom, your maturity is more important. You put more time into developing that and showing the strength that far surpasses physical means on such a level. Once you hit a certain age, that again, the sage would say, make sure no one knocks it out of you. Thank you for being on this Perceptive Readers moment. And you have a very wonderful and healthful day. Did you catch the pun there? A wonderful and healthful day. Warm regards. You have just listened to the Perceptive Readers podcast. remember, until next time, if you read something that encourages you to improve or enhance your life for the better, it becomes your reality.